Hello and welcome back to In the Spotlight, the podcast where we have chats with people from all over the creative industries, whether that's music, literature, acting, whatever. We'll probably have a chat with them. So in this episode, we spoke to Steve Ludwin. Steve has had a very varied career in the music industry. He's written songs for Placebo and Ash. He has fronted many bands and he's met a lot of legends along the way. So you can be sure that he's got some great stories to share. Steve is also known for his work with snakes, and this has been covered by many major news outlets. But just a quick disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Jesse or me. So this podcast is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. We are not endorsing or encouraging any of the actions that are discussed, so please do not attempt to recreate or imitate anything you hear in this podcast. But enjoy the episode, it's a really interesting listen. This is the first episode we've done with a live Honduran milk.
It's a Honduran milk snake.
Milk snake in the studio. It's going to be a great episode.
Like my arms are wrapped up. Let me try and pick him up.
We're here with Steve Ludwin. So Steve, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can you just tell us a bit about yourself to start off?
Okay, my name is Steve Ludwin. I was born in 1966, which makes me 59 years old. And I'm from Connecticut, which is New England. And I just realized somebody told me that I used to live in Suffolk County in America.
Really? Yeah.
And now I live here in Suffolk.
Incredible.
So I've been living in Suffolk for 4 years now, and I love it.
What brought you over here from America?
Why did I come over to England in the first place? Really just because I was not a fan of my country, of my government at the time. And I'd traveled a lot and I wanted to be a rock. I wanted to get into music. I had no talent. I had nothing. So I just thought, I'm going to go to London and I'm going to immerse myself in the music industry.
Yeah. What age was that?
I must have been it was 1987 I came here. So I was like 21.
Was England the place to be then for music?
Definitely. Oh my God, it was the best decision ever. Yeah, London and England was the center of the universe for music.
Really? How?
The
snake crawling around.
The snake is going down the sofa.
Do you want me to?
I just didn't know how delicate you had to be.
No, you don't have to be delicate.
Okay.
So yes, I just hopped on a plane and came here.
Well, it's funny. Things have changed, haven't they? Because I wouldn't say England is the place.
It was back then.
Music.
I mean, bands like Nirvana and Pixies, all those bands, they got famous here. Nobody knew who Nirvana was.
Even in the 80s and 90s. Because I know, obviously the Beatles and Paul Simon, they all moved over. Well, Paul Simon moved over here. Even in the 80s and 90s, England was the place to be.
Absolutely, yeah. All those bands like Nirvana, they were unknown in America. Pixies, the major labels, what they do when they were signing alternative acts, they would see how they go in England first. Because England has the best taste. And, it's just such a scene. Back then, it's difficult for younger people to understand. But back then, all throughout the 90s, there were like 3 or 4 major weekly music papers. New Musical Express, Sounds, Melody Maker, everyone. That's all anyone did. There was no computer games and phones or anything. The only thing to do for teenagers and people was to go to gigs and to read. Everyone knew who was in the charts, who was in the indie charts. It was incredible.
So you moved over to England. What did you do then? Did you go and start a band?
I just came over and you pick up one of those papers and they were great. You just pick up the Melody Maker, Enemy, and it would say vocalists wanted. And there would be, every week there would be adverts and you'd call them up. My first audition that I had, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, my first audition, I went and I called and this band said, yeah, come down. And it was a band called My Bloody Valentine. And I rocked up, I was just off the boat from America and I had a backwards baseball cap. I was probably into Beastie Boys and The Cult or something like that. And they, My Bloody Valentine were just they were so noisy and stuff. But that was my first audition. I didn't get the job, thank God. I think I would have ruined that band. But yeah, it was a good start. Yeah. So then you could just, it was easy. You could just find bands. You know?
I was going to say, do you think it was easier to find and form bands then?
Oh, yes, because you had those music papers and everyone wanted to be in bands.
That might be that everyone wants to be in a band.
Everyone, yeah.
Couldn't say that about now, could you?
No.
Wants to be a TikToker now.
And now it's difficult. Now it's difficult to be in a band.
Yeah. Well, you went on to meet loads of absolute legends. Tell us about how you formed your first band and how that led to.
Yeah, so my first band was a band called Some Have Fins, and we were a 4-piece, and I just found them in the Melody Maker, and I got the job singing. And back then, everyone were grafters. You got in the back of the van and you just started touring around. There was obviously no computers, no MySpace or anything like that. So it was just about getting out there and playing. And we started, just doing that indie thing. We released a record, and then next thing I know, we were playing Reading Festival.
Really?
I'm on that Reading Festival poster the year that Nirvana were on. It's like Nirvana, Some Have Fins, and all this sort of stuff. It was just because I was on the right label.
You got on the label?
Yeah, we were on like an independent label and sort of got a small following and stuff. But it was grunge, everything was grungy and everyone, it was just loud. It was guitars. There was no computers. There's no, there's no backing tracks. There's nothing like that. It was just human beings playing. And you had to get up there, and it was tough, also.
Everything's not as like rocky anymore, is it?
No, it was so rocky back then, and it was so...
Is Reading the one that the
Chapel
teenager
Row.
one?
Yeah, now it's like really teen.
I love Chapel Row.
Like just done GCSEs.
Yeah.
Is that,
me and Angela went to a Leeds festival last year, and we were surrounded by kids that had just left school. And I was like, why do I feel old here?
Yeah, it's really young. Yeah, it was so exciting back then. I hate to sound like an old person going, it was great. But
it's interesting to hear.
But, from the late 80s and the early 90s were comparable to the 60s. Everyone knew it. They said, it's like the 60s. There was just such a scene, and everyone was so happy. It was just incredible. I mean, the Pixies were the band that kind of really started it off. I remember seeing them early on and just going, whoa. And everyone knew it. David Bowie, everyone knew that they were the best songwriters and they were untouchable. And Nirvana completely. One year when I saw Nirvana, they were quite early on the main stage.
Yeah.
But there was a vibe about them. And I remember they played this new song, Teen Spirit. And my friend and I turned around to my friend and I was like, they're fucking ripping off the Pixies. They're going to be huge. Because it sounded like the Pixies. And then later on, Kurt Cobain said, we ripped off the Pixies because it was that quiet, the quiet, loud formula. It was just really exciting. And then when Nirvana took off, all the major labels, everyone was like, we need a grunge band. We need a grunge band.
Yeah.
So just within months, we got our first publishing deal on Polydor Records.
How are you getting these deals? Like, were you just meeting people, or you just sending music to everyone?
Well, you would send tapes in. We would put stickers up everywhere. That was the way you did it.
Because obviously the game's changed now. That's why I'm asking. I'm interested to see how it's...
it was different.
Now it's like create TikToks, every day, create a TikTok, get sound.
Yeah, that's so bad. I started noticing when that started happening, when I had like lawyers and managers saying to me, how many followers do they have? How many followers? And I was like, what? What do you mean followers? I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they don't have enough followers. We're not interested in them. Because they didn't want to do the work. They just want to get somebody on TikTok that's that already have the followers. So they became really lazy.
So back then, what were you doing?
Back in the 90s, like everyone, it was so much fun. There was, there were A&R guys everywhere. When you played, if you were playing in London,
they'd come to gigs,
they'd come to the gigs and everyone would be like, take you out. I mean, it got to the point it was crazy. So like after grunge happened and, Britpop was happening, like then I'd been in a couple bands and I started a new band called Carrie. And one of the guys was in a band called EMF with me. Do you remember EMF? They had the song, You're Unbelievable.
I should probably know it.
You don't know that song?
No.
Holy shit. Yes, you do.
Maybe I would.
I don't know.
I'm probably embarrassing
You're
myself.
Unbelievable. You don't know that? Oh, my God. Anyway, so, there was just a lot of, money about, and we were young and dumb, and it was just like it got out of hand. You'd be in rehearsal and a lawyer would call you, I've got you £200,000. And you're like, oh my God, what? And I said, nope, now it's £300,000. And it just kept on going up and up. And we ended up signing to Island Records, and not that was a good thing. I remember as soon as we signed to Island Records, I was in rehearsal, and there's Jarvis Cocker, and he was on Island Records, and he's there. And I went up to him. We went up to him, like, hey, Jarvis, my name's Steve. We just signed to your label, Island Records. And he just said, well, you're fucked now.
Really?
Yeah. He just said, you're fucked. He said, that was your first mistake. And I was so like, what? And, and he was right. A year later, that label had been, they sold off and it was just a nightmare. We got dropped within 2 years.
Blimey.
And I just kept on. And then I got another deal and I hold the record in London in the music industry. I think I've had 5 or 6 publishing deals now. And I kept on going like, what's going on? I'd get signed and then I'd get dropped. And my lawyer, who's a very, very big, very powerful woman who actually used to manage Ed Sheeran.
Really?
And she got rid of him because she didn't think she could do anything with him.
Oh, no.
Because she said to me, like, Steve, he's really talented, but the way he looked, I just can't do anything with him.
Oh, how wrong.
And then 6 months later, he got a new, and the rest is history.
I didn't realize it was that easy just to drop someone like that.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
you get dropped
all the time, don't they?
So I started thinking
like...
like...
It'd be like a contract or something meant I had to help.
No,
I
got told every time I got dropped, hey, don't worry about it. I'll get you another contract. It's okay. Don't worry. You don't have to pay the money back. So if somebody gives you $100,000, they sign you. You don't have to give that back.
Yeah.
And it's like a tax write-off for them. So I started thinking, oh my God, I'm a tax write-off for the major rate. It has to be. Like I just kept on getting signed and dropped. And, whatever. I'm not complaining. I kind of wish that didn't happen. I wish I'd, go back and work with somebody a little bit more serious. What happened is the record labels started just dropping acts after one album. If you didn't perform, you were dropped. But before that, like in the 80s or just whatever, Radiohead were a failure on their first record. That song Creep was a failure. And if they had been a band like now, they would have been dropped. They would never have had the chance.
They didn't get a second chance.
But in the olden days, it's like, hey, don't worry about your first album. They wanted you to get going on your third album. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, it's been really fun and stuff. I've got to...
Well, you met a lot of interesting people along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not complaining about it. Like, I mean, like just during the whole grunge thing, there was a club on Oxford Street called Syndrome. And you would go there every week. We'd go there every Thursday. And Blur, Wade, The Cure would come in. Nirvana came in one night because they just played. And they came in, and it's only like 200 people, and all musicians, like everyone hanging out. I used to play with Blur when they were called Seymour. Everyone knew each other.
Yeah.
And it was really fun.
Is that how you met Kurt Cobain?
Yeah, Kurt was there. And I we were dancing like on the dance floor to Mudhoney and stuff like that. And as we were leaving the club, I just went up to Kurt and I was like, hey, Kurt, my name's Steve. I just wanted to say thank you. My band just got signed because of your band. And he just looked up at me. He's kind of a little guy. He's my age. And he just looked up at me. He said, no worries. He said, there's plenty of room in the playground. Which is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Which is so nice. It's just saying, hey, welcome.
Yeah.
There's so much room in this playground. Good luck.
He didn't see it as like competition or anything.
Nah. It was just, I just remember thinking, wow, that is such a cool thing. He walked up on the street and, sitting outside and talking. I was talking about a band I used to like called Oingo Boingo, who he liked, and that was it. That was my experience.
I've heard of
I did go on a date with Courtney Love before she met him at that place. We met at Syndrome. So it was a very famous club. Like, I can't stress. But then the press discovered this club and they ruined it because then all the punters started coming and they called it the scene that celebrates itself.
All right.
It was known as the scene that celebrates itself. They didn't like the fact that all the bands were friends and drinking together, so they ruined it.
I'm guessing that's not a thing anymore.
And then Kurt did what he did, and then it kind of crashed a bit from there. But then Britpop happened, and that's when all the money and the drugs. And it was quite wild as well back then. People don't, like, they kind of think all those bands like Suede and Blur and Elastic and all these bands, these indie bands, heroin was very popular.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Everyone was doing heroin. It was just like the most normal thing.
Yeah.
I look back on it, I'm like, holy shit, like, that is mental. And, then people died. I had a band member die from it and, it got really bad.
Yeah. Who else have you met along the way? Because you were telling us about some interesting people. You've written songs for Placebo and Ash.
Yeah. So I kind of got known, like a lot of musicians started liking me because I just did some stunts. I was quite rock and roll, and I was kind of a troublemaker. And so bands started going, wow, that guy's cool. But I became friends with Placebo. I'm still really good friends with the singer and the rest of the band to this day. And I've written 2 songs with them, and I've written with Ash. And then I got noticed. I was in a band called Little Hell, I think in the year 2001. And I got a phone call one night, and they said, "Is that Steve?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "This is Slash. And I've got
so
Duff
cool.
McKeegan here with me." And I was about to say, "Fuck off, who is this?" But I was like, "Nah, sounds really
This
real.
actually sounds like him.
This really does sound real and stuff." So they were starting a new band, which turned out to be the band Velvet Revolver. But I didn't get the gig, but I got flown to Los Angeles, and I spent 5 days writing and jamming with what was Guns N' Roses, basically. There were 3 Guns N' Roses in
Awesome.
And I wasn't even a Guns N' Roses fan, but the music that they sent me, actually, I really hated Guns N' Roses when I was younger. They were like the enemy. And they were the enemy to Nirvana as well. Like, it was hair metal. But by 2001, and the music they sent me was really good. Like, it was quite AC/DC and stuff. So I flew over there, and they were great. Like, I wrote some tunes with them, but I didn't get the gig. They chose the singer Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots, who was a heroin addict at the time. Yeah. And I thought, that's a really dumb thing to do. And it turned out that, they didn't get on, and he didn't show up, and the usual story. And then he died of an overdose. I wish they'd picked me.
So when you're writing songs for other acts or with other acts, how's that work? They say, "We don't know what to do with this part. Come in and help us."
Yeah, I'm a really good, it's called like a top liner. If somebody gives me...
Top liner?
Yeah, if somebody gives me music, it's hard to explain. Like, people always say to me, "Bullshit, Steve, you're really good and you're talented." But like, I feel music. I didn't have... I can play guitar, I can strum a guitar, but I just learned how to write songs.
Yeah.
And the person who taught me how to write songs is a chap called Shane MacGowan. Do you know who Shane MacGowan is?
Yeah.
So he was he took me under his wing, like in the late 80s. And I kind of knew him, and, I'd go over to his flat, and I went over there once, and I was just like, "Shane, I need to write songs." I was all frustrated, and he said, "I'll show you how to write songs." As he's spitting through his teeth, and he's like, "I don't write my own songs. Ghosts write my songs." And I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And he said, "I'll show you how to do it." He said, because I had always heard Keith Richards had always said the same thing. Anybody can write songs. Yeah. They float around above your head, and you just need to reach up and grab them and pull it down. And I used to always think, what the hell is he talking about? But Shane MacGowan showed me. He said, "I don't write my songs. Ghosts write my songs. I'll show you how." He sat me down in a chair. I was in the corner, and he gave me a pipe. Yeah. And I knew what was in that pipe. I was just like, that's not marijuana. And it was this pipe. And I was just like, oh, fuck it. I'm so desperate. Like, I need to learn how to write songs. And this guy is going to show me. So he said, "Smoke this. I'm going to leave. And in a half hour, I'm going to come back and you'll have written a song." So I smoked that, knowing that it was something very naughty. And he left, and he gave me his acoustic guitar. And I just remember, I was like, "Oh, okay, God, I feel weird." And I just channeled something. And within 3 minutes, I think I'd finished a song that was maybe 70 or 80% kind of done, with melodies and some lyrics. And I was pretty blown away by that. And, a year and a half later, 2 years later, I got a major label deal. And I
as a songwriter? Or
as a band, and I'm the main songwriter.
Yeah.
And that song got recorded, and, I always knew. But from that moment on, I was like, wow, songwriting it's not, you don't have to be trained. You don't, you can just feel it.
Tap into
it.
But when you when you write for Placebo or Ash, do you have to step into their shoes? Like, is there a risk that you put Steve Ludwin's songwriting on it? Or is that what they want?
Well, Ash ended up just kind of taking one of my songs and doing it on their own. But like with Placebo, I'll
you try and think in their...
No, I try and think in their thing, but I'll just kind of like do something. And then like if the singer goes, "Oh, I like that. And then he'll elaborate on that. Like the last song I did with Placebo, I kind of just helped out on the chorus. It's not like I'm, doing the whole song and stuff like that. But I love working with other people as well. Like, it's just so much fun. I don't care who it is. If someone gives me music, it's like a challenge to me.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, we better talk about the elephant or the snake in the room.
For those that are just listening and not watching, there's currently what type is he?
So that's a tangerine phase Honduran milk snake.
Cooling around on my lap.
And that is a non-venomous snake.
Well, tell us about your history with snakes.
Okay, so snakes. Yes, snakes are my real first love. That and music, they're like equal, but I was born with an absolute love for snakes. Like when I was 3 years old, I started drawing snakes and stuff, and no one knew where that came from, and it just stayed. I was one of those kids. I was into Godzilla and dinosaurs, but I was just so into snakes all my life, just going crazy, catching snakes. And I think when I was like 11, 12 years old, I went down to a place called the Miami Serpentarium, and I met, there was this guy that was milking cobras there, and it was kind of known that he had been injecting himself with snake venom since 1948, and he became immune to it, and that's just kind of stuck in my head. I was like, wow, you can become immune to snake venom? I mean, there was obviously no books on it or no internet back then. And I just went back home to Connecticut where I was living. And I think when I was like 17 years old, I just had this light bulb moment of like, I'm going to inject snake venom. I'm going to inject snake venom and something good is going to come from this. I had that feeling. I had this like almost like a Close Encounters of the Third Kind sort of light that went off that was just like, you're going to do this and something good's going to come from it. So when I came to England, my first job was working in Walthamstow, and I was working in a place called the Vivarium, which had venomous snakes and spiders and everything.
Yeah.
And so I was just like a kid in a candy store, and I started taking venomous snakes home, and it was in 1990.
Did they know you were taking them home?
Yeah, my boss was really cool. It was in 1998. No, 1988 is when I started. 88.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing.
What was the goal? Just become immune?
Yeah, I guess that's what it was. The goal originally for me was to see if you could become immune to snake venom, but I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know how to milk a snake properly. I had never done it before. So I had to figure out figure out how to safely grab this viper, and then I milked it and I got the venom out. And
How
then
do you get the venom out?
you grab the snake behind its head
gently,
and you have to be very careful because the vipers can kind of spin their fangs around and stick it through their lips in order to get in your finger. I've had that happen to me twice now. But I got the venom out, and then I just had that feeling of like, okay, I've got to do this. And I just did it, not knowing whether or not it was going to kill me or not. I remember thinking could be sketchy. You might die here. I don't know.
How did that feel the first time? Was that scary?
It hurt. Yeah, it was scary. And I put it in, and I put it in my arm, and then I quickly was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You could feel it. You could feel it burning. And it was just that panic, and my arms swelled up, and my arm sort of went, purple, brown, and green for like 3 weeks in the area of the injection. And it took me about 4 or 5 months before I gathered the confidence to do it again. But there was like an instinctual confidence. I was a little bit nervous, but I had this feeling like, don't worry, it's going to be okay. So the next time I did it, same thing happened, swelling, bruising. The next time I did it, same thing happened, and I started doing it like every 3 months, then every 2 months. But I think after about 2 years of doing that, maybe 2-3 years, I started noticing, it's not reacting. I'm putting more venom in, and doesn't have the same discoloration.
Immunity actually did develop.
Yeah. So I started with my own eyes, started going, okay, cool. I'm becoming immune to this. I'm becoming immune to it. And I carried on. And after about 5 years, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, I started just doing more, and I started experimenting because I was a singer and everyone would always get sick and on tour and sharing microphones and getting throat problems. I started gargling with rattlesnake venom. I would gargle with it, and I would be the only one not getting sick. And you'd feel like you'd be getting sick, and I would gargle that and, kind of And then the next day you'd feel right as rain. And to this day, I still do that. And my girlfriend does that. If she feels she's getting a cold or a sore throat, she's like, oh, I was like, and she's like, shall I have some Venom? She'll gargle with the Venom. And then the next day she'll be right as rain.
Yeah, I read. I've seen health benefits from it then.
Oh, I've seen.
Because I read on the BBC article that you said you haven't been.
Yeah, no, it's really weird now. I don't know how long it is now. I don't know. I don't even know. It's like 22, 25 years. I don't know. I'm famous for that. I don't even know what it's like to be ill now. Like, I can't remember what it's like to have a fever or the chills and all those things that you kind of had when you were younger. And it is really like bizarre. And I've had scientists and saying, well, yeah, that makes sense. You're strengthening your immune system. So while everyone else is out lifting weights and stuff, I'm just, taking a bit of snake venom, and it's kind of like exercising your immune system. So when you put, it's highly evolved reptilian saliva, it's not supposed to be in your body. Like the first time I did it, it felt like a door opened. It felt like, you're not, this shouldn't be happening. We're mammals, you shouldn't be purposely putting something that can kill you into your bloodstream. And, but there is really something in it. And, the symbol of medicine is two snakes, the Egyptians, were just draped in snakes. Anthropologists are now saying that, the Egyptians were using snake venom, just like I am, medicinally, well over 2,000 years ago, and successfully, apparently.
Do you believe it is like a way forward for human medicine, and that they should take it more seriously?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's already being used. I mean, snake venom is already being used in medications for stroke and for heart attack. Scientists are all over it, but people aren't really using it for longevity and anti-aging, which is something that I'm interested in now. So, it is total fact that you can become immune to snake venom. Anyone can do it. It's quite easy. I don't think the public is aware, but if you get bit by a venomous snake, you go to the hospital and you get anti-venom. Do you know how anti-venom is made?
Not really.
No.
Well, from the venom, isn't it?
Yes, but they inject horses. So I've been to farms. They inject horses with the snake venom, and they do the same thing that I do. They give them a little, and then the horse gets a bit sick, but then they develop antibodies. Anybody can do it. If you put that into your body, we all have adaptive immune systems, which means that your immune system, the next time that goes into your body, it can remember it and it can deal with it. So it can recognize and go, oh, I've had that before, so it can fight it. So basically, every time I put, venom into me, the white blood cells are just going crazy to fight it, just, hey.
Yeah.
But it's my theory, and that's making your body stronger.
Sure.
So when a cold goes in there, they're just like, oh, this is nothing. We deal with snake venom.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I mean, when you first started, you said that you wanted it to sort of lead to something positive. Well, it did in the end, didn't it?
It did.
Did scientists come and sort of...
It did, yeah. Because I did
I
did a documentary for Vice, maybe 12, 15 years ago. And I skateboarded down to their offices and I said, if you film what I do, you're going to get a lot of interest. Yeah. And they agreed to do what I did. And they spent money on it. They didn't give me any money because it was so dangerous. They had lawyers on it, everyone. When they were filming me, they had, at the cost of like £4,000 a day, they had to have an ambulance crew around me when I was filming because they were that frightened that I was going to die or I was going to sue them if something happened to me. But I did that, and they called it Getting High Injecting Snake Venom. It's on YouTube if you want to see it.
I think I might have watched it.
Yeah, and it was their biggest film. Like it really helped set up Vice. Like it had millions and millions. I think it's 11 million. And I've just from there, I kind of got noticed, and there were a group of scientists from Denmark that they had the idea of coming up with a new anti-venom that was derived from human blood rather than horse's blood. Because the problem with using horses, it's very expensive. It has a low shelf life, but it's also dangerous for the person. People have died from the actual anti-venom because you can go into anaphylactic shock because you're getting horses, blood.
Yeah.
So their idea was to make it from a human, i.e. mine. So I spent 5 years flying every 2 months to Denmark, and it was with the University of Copenhagen. And they drained me of blood, and I had a bone marrow operation, which sucked. And they took my bone marrow, a lot of it, out of my back. And then they, just in the lab, they found all the antibodies. They'd spin it and, make serums. And they made a library called the Ludwin library, DNA. And it's currently just sat there, and there's some political problems and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, at the time, and still now, I was like, wow, those voices that I heard, that something good is going to come out of it, kind of started to make sense, because people were like, wow, your blood is going to save, thousands of lives. And, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. And it's carrying on now. I'm getting people get in touch all the time and inquiring.
And a lot of big news outlets as well.
Yeah, it got crazy. I've had I did press in Russia. I did press in China. I did press just everywhere. So I don't know. It started really taking off,
How many snakes have you got now?
Not many. I used to have, quite a lot in London. Now I think I've got like 10 or so, something like that.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. That's been so interesting.